I think we are about to start, to be punctual. It's 7 o'clock, November 16th. It's a webinar. We're doing it live. I want to welcome all the participants. Thank you very much for attending. Thank you very much, above all, to Leire and Nuria. And many thanks to Pablo, my partner. He has been here with us at EducaWay for 7 years and has been making a great team and getting better every day. And thanks also to NHL Stenden University for sponsoring and helping us also in this webinar to spread the word. A brief introduction of you, Leire and Nuria. Tell us something, because then we will talk more in depth. Tell us what you are studying and a little bit about yourselves.
Do you want to start or should I go?
You are first on the screen.
Well, I'm Leire, I'm from Pamplona, and I'm studying in Leeuwarden, which is in the north of the Netherlands. And now I'm in Malaysia doing my Erasmus. I'm in my 3rd year.
Well, I'm Nuria, I'm from Barcelona, and now I'm in Denmark, in the southern part of Denmark, near the border with Germany. I am studying European studies, which is basically political science. And I am in my 3rd semester, that is in my 2nd year of my degree.
Great. Surely many people will have some doubts and questions. What we recommend is that you take note of them, because in the end we will answer all the questions you have. A brief reminder for those of you who are on the laptop or computer, in order to keep the participants in sight so you can see all of us, click on the tab and you can see the 4 of us. And on the mobile, a tip, which is to put it landscape horizontally so that you can see it better. The table of contents, what we are going to see today, a brief introduction, something to get to know each other, the reason for all this, countries, comparisons and prices, which I think is where the heart of the matter is, and where Pablo is going to explain everything a little bit. The part of the accommodation, which is underestimated a little, but which has a great weight and more due to the situation of the real estate rooms, not only in your countries, but also in, I think, quite globalized now. And we will continue with the EducaWay process, some conclusions, and as we have said with the FAQs, which are the questions that you may have, write them down, because at the end we will answer them. Briefly, I would like to explain what EducaWay is. I understand that most of you who are here know it. I see that there are about 53 participants right now. But well, let's give a brief outline of what EducaWay is. EducaWay is an agency that provides educational experiences abroad, mainly in higher education, which are universities. And as it says, it is a pioneer company in offering this service of vocational orientation and providing a complete service. To highlight some of the points, it is a company that works with 18 countries. We have an educational offer of 30,000 degrees, university careers. All of them are 100% in English. They are either partially subsidized or totally subsidized. We will see this in the topic with Pablo, the prices. More than 2,000 EducaWakers, that is students that have trusted us in almost 10 years. This February we will be 10 years old. And we are accredited at international level with different accreditations. We also have some more for the United Kingdom and other countries in particular, but at international level. Having said that, I would like to ask a question which you can answer, as many of you as you want, which is a simple way. At the bottom it says how to answer. But the question is, are you sure, or who is 100% sure, or even 90%, of what you want to study and where you want to study it, or at least of what you want to study? So those of you who are sure, Rocio, you can raise your hand, which is below. You have the indications below on the right-hand side, so you can react. Then Yolanda says, I am sure, and so is Marta, and so is Rocio. You are not the same Rocio, right? iPhone Adriana, right? We are seeing that 6 people so far are 100% sure. That's very good. Now there are 5. Now there are 4. Good. Well, that's very good, but why are we asking this question? Well, basically because of the following, because of what is coming now. There is a series of data, some current data of this year, which I think we should stop and pay attention to, okay? This is what is happening in Spain. And even if it is a little bit of text, I would like us to read it. I am going to be the one reading it, but it says the following. Only 23% of university students consider that the decision they have made is totally correct. We are talking about choosing a university career here in Spain for Spanish students. 48% regret or at least have doubts about their choice. Half of the students who wish to study at a public university do not manage to get the grade they need to study their desired degree. Only 1 in 3 of those surveyed said they had received an adequate university orientation. Only 1 in 4 high school students were completely clear about what they wanted to study and at which university they wanted to study. This was the question from a moment ago. 77% of the students surveyed would not have dismissed the idea of studying outside Spain had they known about the existence of scholarships and financial aid. Therefore, a large part of the most in-demand degree courses as of today are the ones with the highest cutoff marks. And there is a lack of guidance adapted to the previous educational stages. Where does all this information come from? All this information comes from a study made to more than 500 young people a few months ago, 500 young people from Spain who had this type of doubts. So much so that this survey, this study was carried out by EduCoe. It was elaborated and commissioned. We participated in the whole process and in several advertising media, such as a newspaper La Razón, Onda Cero, because there we see this type of problems. Imagine the cost in terms of time and money, and in the end, 1 out of every 3 students does not finish the degree they have started. There is nothing wrong with not failing. With failing, that is, it is always better to change and go on to another career that really interests you. Right, Leire? It is something that you have experienced, that you told us before the meeting, but the issue of not having been informed and leaving everything, the orientation for the last minute, is a risk, isn't it? In other words, we believe that the key lies in the previous information, and there is a solution, isn't there? There are solutions because these are some of them. What are we trying to do here? To increase the knowledge about European university opportunities. Then counseling based on the student's needs and interests. This sounds great, but what does it mean? Imagine that all 65 of us who are connected now want to do the same career. Would counseling be easy? No, it doesn't have to be. Many of us, maybe we want a necessity. Some will want to opt for a ranking. Others for universities with a more practical methodology. Others for the cost of the degree. Others for the type of city. Others for the language in which it is taught. Others for the duration, because we know that the same degree is available in 3 years and others in 4 years. In other words, there are a series of variables and needs and interests, which is what makes a good orientation help to choose the career that best fits those needs. Also the solutions, what we have been doing for a long time, which is a joint collaboration with centers or other partners for university orientation. The access requirements, and according to the branch of study, that is to say, the grade is important, but not everything is cut by a cutoff grade. But in European universities, in addition to the grade, there is another series of requirements a little more in line with the needs or the program itself. Therefore, all this increases the probability of admission and a high level of satisfaction. Well, it is good that there is a solution, but for a solution there has to be a why. That is to say, a person who goes to the gym 3 days or 4 days a week, or a person who goes jogging every morning at 6 in the morning, will have to have a why, will have to have a motivation. And what are those motivations? I imagine that those of you who are sitting there already know them, but it is convenient to go over them, right? Which is, thanks to this, going abroad to study, for example, in Malaysia, in Denmark, is to become what you really want to be. to travel, to experience, to get out of your comfort zone, to develop an international curriculum, which is not for the future. This is for a long time that has been needed in companies to become a person confident in yourself and your talent. Obviously, you will have professional English and access to other languages. So it will give you high employability and higher quality. And we are also providing university quality direct relationship with companies. And what all this does is to create a new self. In other words, each year abroad is worth 3. This is not proven anywhere, but it is something we say at EducaWay. And why do we say it in EducaWay? Because at EducaWay, all of us on the team have lived in several countries. Here's my colleague Pablo. He has lived in Belgium. He has lived in Poland. We have colleagues in the United States, Australia, Ireland, Italy. My case, for example, I was in Denmark in one of them. So we empathize with that experience and those whys. And therefore we get some benefits. We did not want to mention all of them because Pablo will explain them in each of the countries. But for example, access to top-ranked or highly employable universities or university degrees that are 100% subsidized or partly subsidized. This is something that many people are not aware of today. Another benefit is the probability of access. This year we have been in the 98.1 through the service we provide at EducaWay. And a really practical, useful study methodology, how would you say? Well, collaboration with companies, projects, internships from minute one. So very adapted to the needs of the companies. Well, now comes the question of where, right? Where can I study? Here, as you can see, there are 18 countries, more than 30,000 careers. We are not going to talk about all of them in depth because then we would need a lot of time and we do not want to make it so long, but we are going to talk about the most demanded countries. To give you some information, this year we have sent students to 14 nationalities. During the 10 years of EducaWay, we have sent students to 18 countries. But Pablo, as he was not satisfied with this, has said that we are going to open a new one, and he is already doing and orienting the process for Canada. So this year it will be country number 19 at the university level. So Pablo, I would like to introduce you. Pablo has a very important role in EducaWay. He has gone through all the phases. He joined, I think, 7 years ago. And, well, he is my right hand and he is in charge of many things. And he knows a lot more than I do. I am going to leave you with him and he will explain a little bit about the countries. Pablo, whenever you want.
Perfect. Jose, thank you very much for the presentation. As Jose says, all of us in the team have been as students, as workers in different countries. And within the team, well, we have been many years guiding students, getting to know the systems. And at the end, from all of this, now we store 18 different countries that we have worked with. We have helped students. 19 next year, we'll get Canada in. We'll see how we manage to make the map bigger. But okay, let's talk today. On the next slide, we're going to talk about 8 major countries today. Because at the end of the day, with all these countries, we have the possibility to choose the best ones, the ones that are the most advantageous for us. And where the students we help usually choose, we help hundreds of students every year. And these are the top 8 countries. So we've prepared a slide, which you're going to see it now. It's a chart. I am not really going to stop here because there is a lot of data here. It can be a little bit overwhelming, but we are really going to send this presentation to all of you by mail so that you can consult it or use it as a comparative tool. And now we are going to talk one by one about the countries a little bit more in detail. But well, I know that you can see here that there is very interesting data, such as the approximate number of degrees in English in each of the countries, to know the variety that exists, or data like the cost of the career accommodation average, always obviously that can vary a lot, or other expenses, unemployment rate, duration of the degrees, data from each country that you might be interested in. But we're going to switch now and we're going to start talking about the countries because, well, these countries, that selection. Let's start with the Netherlands. The Netherlands is the most popular country today. It's where we help the most students every year to get in. Every year, over 100 students choose the Netherlands as their destination. students who work with us directly, because there are really thousands of students who choose it as a destination. There are several reasons. One of them is that it is the most, without being England or Ireland, the English-speaking country that offers more degrees in English to students. It has a very large educational offer in English from which we can choose. It can be very easy to find the degree you want, and degrees that do not exist in Spain. Now Leire will tell us to read a little bit too, because it is a little bit the case. Then we can find the best options, the most interesting study options in a country with a very important educational quality. The country is a very important one, an educational reference in different international rankings, but it always appears in the top 10 positions, and where there is a very good quality in its universities. In the end, like all the countries we are going to talk about today, but in the end, it is still remarkable. And on top of that, they give us European students a study grant. We have this luck. Really, what the fees are, the tuition fee that you pay every year annually. We Europeans only pay 2,530 euros a year. Non-European students, there are a lot of them, fellow students from Africa, from Asia, from America, from all over the world. They usually pay 7,000, 8,000 euros approximately, which is what it really costs. We have a great opportunity in the country. Above all, there are many public universities, very good universities, an excellent educational level. There are also some private universities, but here the public ones are very important. And a couple of practical data. Unemployment is almost zero. It is a very healthy unemployment. It has an incredible labor market. In these countries, you are going to see that the same thing happens in all of them. And another very important thing is that the enrollment processes are already open. In the Netherlands, it opened on October 1st. We, for example, already have students admitted, pre-admitted, that at the end of the course, when they show the grades, everything will be official. But they are already admitted, and we are already looking for accommodations. These are countries in which the processes, unlike in Spain, are done during the academic year. This is important to remember, because in Spain we have a different culture and we always do everything at the end. But well, the Netherlands is a great country to talk about the types of universities that exist. Because, for example, here in Spain, we are accustomed to a type of university, which is the research university. In Europe, in all these countries, the Netherlands is a very good example. We can choose between two types of universities, and they work with two different methodologies. On the one hand, there is the research university, which would be the Spanish example. The universities here fit that profile, which are theoretical universities. Universities that have faculty studies, they are dedicated to research. On the other hand, in these countries, we have a type of university that are the universities of applied science, the applied science they are called. This is something that does not exist in Spain, but in these countries, for many years, they have had these universities. They are mainly focused on the more practical part, in those more practical sciences, in those areas where really what they defend. Their main objective is to achieve the employability of their students. That students learn with the most current methodologies, and that they get the most necessary skills in the day-to-day working world that they are going to access. And really this, if we go to the next slide, for example, there are many of such universities in Europe, also within the Netherlands. But for example, we have a good example in NHL Stenden, the University of Applied Sciences. It's a university in the Netherlands. It has several campuses, but the main one is in Leeuwarden in the northern part of the country. And well, we are lucky to have Leire. Thank you again for being here today. This practical methodology, which is not very well known in Spain, I think you can explain it better because you have been living it for a few years now. Leire, you study creative business, which is an example of a degree that does not exist here in Spain. I think people don't really know what it is. If you can tell us a little better what the degree consists of.
Well, basically, creative business is a mix between audiovisual production, audiovisual communication, and marketing. It's a bit of a remix between the two, a lot of camera work, but also those who don't like it can do marketing. It's like a combination of the two.
How interesting. It is one of the varieties that do not exist in Spain, but it really has a lot of employability. And well, you have studied at this university living the methodology of applied sciences 100%. How would you describe it? What differences does it have with the typical research part?
Well, it is completely different. That is, there we do not sit down and study from a book, but we work with clients to begin with. Clients, that is, real companies that ask us questions. We have to work in a group for a semester. It is always in a group, and we have to give them a final product. And basically, we are in contact with the company and obviously with the help of the professors. And then on the other hand, we work with a methodology called DBE, design-based education that would translate. And basically, they give us a problem. It doesn't have to be a problem as such, but they present us with an opportunity or a situation. And basically, we have to work step by step to try to find solutions. And it is not a linear process, but it is a process in which we go from step 1 to step 2 to step 3. If then you get feedback and the company says, this is not like that, it should be like this, why don't you try this? We go back to step 2. And it is not about failing, it is just about learning and building something on a foundation. And in the end, you come up with a product that you basically agree with the company.
That's great. So it's really the day-to-day working with a company. You are doing it in education, aren't you? Since practically the first year of your career. And you, at the end of the day, when you finish, you're going to be a member of any company, of any profession, really. And because this is an apprenticeship method, any profession in many areas is useful. And what is assured is employability. Really, the students, when you finish, you are going to work. Because also, apart from working with this format, there are the professional internships that are mandatory in the program, right?
Yes, they are mandatory. It depends on the career. You have to do them in 3rd or 4th year. But I, for example, have to do them in 4th year, and they are 8 months. And after that, we have to write the thesis, but we write it based on the company in which we are working at. It is like applying everything you learned. All the knowledge, the theory you receive, you are constantly applying it. And that is very practical. And then what you said, the internships are like the climax of everything you have learned and how to really apply it in a company.
Right. At the end of 4 years of education, because the universities of applied science have a 4-year duration, just like here in Spain, for example, you spend at least 1 year working with a company hand in hand, and actually the other 2 years also with a lot of projects close and in contact with the company, which is great. That's where you see that practical component. And then also the international component, which is in all universities. It's something that luckily is common in most of these countries. And in the Netherlands, it's incredible because Jasper was telling us a few months ago he came to join us for a workshop. We usually travel a lot to get to know the universities. He was in Leeuwarden talking with the people in charge, and he told us that it was incredible how many international students there are on campus. Leire, have you also experienced it there?
Yes, I would say that. In fact, I think that 30% of us are international. It's amazing. And for example, in my classes, there were 2 or 3 people out of 30 or 40 who were Dutch, and the rest of us were all from many different places.
Great. And the easiness to make your experience even more international by traveling. What better example, Leire, you tell us right now where you are?
Well, as I said, I am in Malaysia. My university has a lot of universities to do Erasmus abroad, and there are many in Asia. And I decided to come here to Malaysia, and here I am doing Erasmus for a semester. Yes.
It's that example of university of practical methodology, which really has a lot of positive points. We always say that there are students of both profiles. There are students who value the academic part of the research universities, which are also very good. And there are many other students who get the best out of the applied sciences part of the methodology. And the truth is that both types have super positive points. Well, so in the end, Leire, how do you value the experience of studying there?
100 out of 10, that is for me, it has been very cool, but not only because I have learned academically, but because I think that being abroad has also allowed me to grow a lot, to learn a lot, to find out a lot also what I want to do, how I want to do it. Somehow I think that in Spain I would not have achieved that, because when you leave your comfort zone at the end, you are learning a lot of things about life too, which sounds very poetic, so to say, but yes.
No, but it's true. In my case, when I did it a few years ago, it still changes your life. You see everything differently. What about life in Leeuwarden, for example, life in the Netherlands, which we commented that it is so international? What is the day-to-day life like? Because there is a point, as you may have commented about the country, there is a point that we also always comment on because we want it to be known. There is a problematic point, for example, about housing. It happens that it has been getting worse. it is a situation that has been getting a little bit more complicated, more difficult to access accommodation each time. There is a lot of competition, something that we help from here. We will comment it later. But Leeuwarden is a city that I believe does not have that problem so much, being in the northern area.
It is a very small city. It has about 100,000 inhabitants. And basically, life is very small town. Everyone goes by bike. Well, in the Netherlands, there are more bikes than people to begin with. So everyone goes everywhere by bike. And basically, because classes are during the day and then in the evenings, many students in the country combine studies and work. I, for example, also had a part-time job. There are many 0-hour contracts. That is, they do not require you to be there any kind of minimum hours, which is very good to combine with studies. You decide your schedule generally. So sometimes I work or stay at the university with my friends, do the work. As I said, it is very much a group thing, so you need to be in contact with them all the time and then go home. Pray that it's not raining when you have to go home on the bike. And repeat, and then on the weekends you can do something to go out a little bit. If not, you can also travel around the country. In a group, it is quite cheap, the train, to visit it.
The truth is that this is the experience that I have been hearing for years from students who go to the Netherlands. It sounds great. It is one of the most popular countries, a super interesting option, but it is not the only one. For example, the next country we want to tell you about, we are really going in order of popularity, in order of relevance, maybe, although in the end, each student decides, each student has different criteria and values different things. But really, perhaps those are the most interesting options. Denmark is one of the most important and relevant countries to study in Europe. We are talking about a country with educational excellence. There are different rankings, but Universitas Deximus is a very important resource that we use. We always look at it. They rate it as the third best in the world. It is always in the top 5 educational systems in the world. It is a country that, in addition to that educational quality that it has an incredible quality of life. And above all, in addition to the fact that we have that quality, we have the subsidy offered to European students. Like other countries, such as Sweden and Finland, which we will comment on soon, it is a 100% full subsidy. Studying in Denmark is €0 every year for Europeans. Again, here we have an advantage. Non-European students, and there are a lot of them, they are super international universities. They pay the 8,000, 9,000 euros a year, which it usually costs. But we have such a good opportunity. In the country, they are all public universities. It is a country where really having such a high quality, there are no private universities. And really, we even have something special, don't we? The SU grant, which we have wanted to mention, but we don't talk much about it because really it's something that you get when you're there later on. And students get it when they are already living in the country. But you have the option to opt for a grant that, besides studying for free, they give you money every month for you, for your expenses, if you are working. The truth is that it is also very positive in the country. But, well, as before, let's take advantage of the fact that we have Nuria. Thank you, Nuria, for participating with us. Nuria, tell us, do you study European studies? Yes, of course, tell us a little bit.
As I said, I'm in the southern part of Denmark, almost 3 hours away from Copenhagen by train. But Denmark is also very well connected. And I am studying political science, which is mostly European studies, although we also deal with international areas and so on. And my degree lasts 3 years. Right now I am in the Equator, and I don't know, it is a project-based university. So we have a lot of freedom of schedules. I, for example, do a total of 9 hours a week of university. So in the end, I have a lot of free time to study on my own, to have my own things and to work. So that is part of the quality of life that we already have in Denmark. And then it is very close to the teachers, to the classmates. They are also very international campuses. In my class, we are, I don't know, about 25 countries, counting only 4 Danish students. So the truth is that it is a very, very international campus, and 50% of the students are Spanish. In other words, it's half of Spain on campus right now, but it's very good.
Yes, we have taken advantage. We are taking advantage of the opportunity, right? Because Denmark, well, it's a country that really, maybe one thing that is not so positive, or in the end a drawback it has, is that there is not that great variety of studies that, for example, does exist in the Netherlands. It is not as easy to find programs in English as it is in the Netherlands. But really the ones that are offered have great quality, and it is an incredible opportunity. It is very easy to find, for example, the options to study engineering, which is a field that has a lot of job opportunities and a huge future there, but also other options such as business, European studies, teaching, software, even fashion. There are also study options in Denmark and in international universities, as Nuria says. In these years, you have mentioned that you also work on projects, right? Is it similar to the practical methodology of the universities in the Netherlands? What kind of projects have been done?
I wish. Listening to Leire, I say, oh, how cool. No, mine is more basic. It's maybe during the whole year. Well, in fact, more specifically during the semester, we have a group. They give us 2 more people in your group. We are a trio and we have to work on a lot of projects. In fact, almost all of them, presentations and so on, with that same group. So in the end, you have to do well in group work. What they want is that you relate with other people, develop those characteristics, and basically, well, that presentations, groups, and in the end, the exams, we only have 2 exam periods, which are now in January and in June when we finish the university. And it is directly the whole month of January for exams, as well as June. And I basically have 3 exams the same week, and I have the whole rest of the month without anything to do. And at the end of the day, the exams are a collection of everything you've done during the course, all your posters, all your papers, essays, all together like in a portfolio. And that's it. And send it in. That's our exam.
Of course, a positive part is that it is not that system of having all the theory in your head and throwing it up, but other things are valued more. To have learned, to show that you have learned and the work you have been doing, right?
It is valued that you, with all the tools that they have given you, in fact, if I take an exam, which is, for example, 3 hours at the university, they give you everything. They give you the book, which we do not have. But if you did, you would take the book. You can use the internet. The point is that with all the tools you have, you know how to reach to the solution. Because in the end, in your day-to-day is what you are going to do, and that is what will make you continue.
Great, great. And about student life, you were also telling us a little bit earlier. What's it like touring life in Sonderborg?
Well, in Sunderborg, because this town is quite small, it's 17,000 people and so on. But the university has really brought it to life, not just on my campus, but at the University of the South. They have a group at the university called Interteam, who are the ones who organize all the parties. They take you on a weekend camp to do team building, to get to know your classmates, the other majors, and so on. In the end, it is a country where it gets dark at 3 o'clock at night. If you stay locked up at home, your life is not going to work. And in the end, they try to make you be super sociable, that you have many friends. On Fridays, we have a disco at the university itself for that very reason, so that you can socialize and not stay cooped up. And then there are many youth associations in the town, and it is always full of events. That is, there is not a day that there is not an event in town, so it's great.
That's great. So your final evaluation?
10 out of 10 too, and even more.
That's great. That's great. Another example of really we're talking about the countries with incredible opportunities. And well, but there are also more countries within Europe. In the end, the Netherlands and Denmark are among the most popular. At the end, the advantages that they have, that relation that they have between the advantages and the cost and everything, a lot of students choose them. But for example, the United Kingdom. United Kingdom is a country that about, well, a few years ago, because of the Brexit, it went down in popularity. Some things happened that made it a little bit less interesting, but it is gaining more and more interest again. What about the UK? It's a benchmark country in university education. It has history. It has an incredible tradition. Any international ranking that you can consult places it as one of the best countries in the world to study. And, well, you can see it in each of its universities, each one of them with over 200 universities there are. Of course, being a country with English as its native language, we have an incredible variety. More than 25,000 or approximately 25,000 careers in English to find the one you are looking for, and also in different cities, different campuses, and you have an incredible variety. In addition to that variety, well, the quality of education, these are the great reasons for the country. After Brexit, above all, 2 complications arose for European students. The first, the most important, was the increase in fees in the tuition fee that we had. This has gone up to about £23,000 a year, And the second complication that arose was the need to apply for a visa to study there. But it's been a few years now, and we've seen these processes improve. For example, the visa process has become much more agile. I think we have been receiving them within a few weeks now, every time we apply for our students. And the fees, although they have not gone down, it is still that amount, the general standard. We are seeing more and more universities that, in order to promote again among European students, that they choose it as a destination, so they continue having that cultural diversity and diversity of nationalities that they have always had. So they are offering again scholarships, they are offering again special prices to Europeans, going back to the £9,250 a year that they had before, which is something that is already making more and more students. We are seeing a growing interest decide to choose it again, because it's a country that has an educational quality, and the experiences of studying there, the connections that are made, are really valuable and worthwhile. It's a country that has the vast majority of universities, virtually all of them are public, the hundreds that there are, and that offer international options. And something important to mention briefly, we cannot go into much detail, but the application process, as in these countries we have mentioned, opens soon. It opens on September 5th. In fact, it has been open for a couple of months. It cannot be done like in Spain. It cannot be done at the end. The application process is done through UCAS. UCAS is the general platform of the government or of the country to do the university application. And you can do it individually or through an official UCAS member, as we are at Educaway. That always has a series of advantages to manage the process. Let's move on to another country to comment on. We are really talking about the best in Europe, which would be Belgium. Belgium is not the typical country. It does not have a known tradition. It is not well known. It really has been opening up internationally for many years. This is that more and more universities in Belgium are offering degrees in English. So it is opening up an opportunity for us because it is a country with a high quality of education. For example, it is close to the top 10. To give us an idea, in these rankings, Spain is usually placed in the 23rd, 25th position, because we are talking about the whole world, the comparison of the best countries. And then Belgium has opened up as an international opportunity also for Spanish students looking for a destination. Also, Belgium is a country that culturally shares many things with the Netherlands. Historically, culturally, economically, it shares many things with Holland. But it has an important advantage that makes it a very good option, and that is making us send more and more students, which is that it is much cheaper, both at the educational level, that is, at the level of tuition fees. For example, the cost of studying at the university in Belgium, public universities, is €1,092 per year, like the issue of accommodation, a country that is not having that pressure on prices as high as the Netherlands. So it becomes an affordable alternative, and also with a very high level of quality. Anyway, the application date is already open. As of October 7, it is the same as in the Netherlands. There they are already enrolling and receiving even those conditional admissions. So it is a country that forces us to do it early, but it is a very good study option. And we are going to see another country. This is making us go fast and not to go into details, but then with the doubts that you have, you can bring them up. Another country to highlight is Ireland. Ireland is also one of the countries that more students choose every year as a destination, as well as England. It has the advantage of having English as the national language. We have an incredible range of study options, approximately 1,200 degrees to choose from in many universities as well. And it is a country that has an advantage, especially compared to the United Kingdom, which is also the cost. It offers us the possibility of doing a linguistic immersion. Studies are also of high quality in a very powerful country, especially in recent years. Ireland is particularly interesting to mention. As a result of the fiscal policy it has had in recent years, it is receiving a lot of foreign investment. Multinational companies from all over the world are choosing it as a base within Europe. And that's really showing the opportunities that students are getting, the job market that they have access to. It has become that alternative that more and more students are choosing. And in addition to its public universities, which are very good, and there are very outstanding ones, because it has a variant that are the private universities in the country that have a little more flexibility. Maybe students who don't have that level of English, for example, something that all these countries that we are talking about, they require a B2 CI level of English. It's usually around there, and they always tend to ask for it officially. Ireland is a country that has a little bit more flexibility on this. students who are a little bit weaker in English, it can be a very good option. And the private universities, they are the ones that have this flexibility in requirements and deadlines. They do not cost more than the public ones. In fact, there are some that cost even less. It is a country that we help students apply to every year. Last year, there were a little over 20 students because it is a very interesting option. And just like the rest, the application process is already open. It is done during the course. And I think we have the last 3 countries to highlight, really the most important ones in Europe, which are Sweden, Finland, and Germany. Here, actually, Sweden and Finland are similar to Denmark. Culturally, they share a lot of things. For example, the quality of education. We are talking about benchmark countries in education, and they are in all the rankings in the top 10. The quality of the universities, the quality of the education system, the proximity to the teachers, they share that methodology and that innovation in education. It is shared, fortunately. These are 3 countries that are doing very well in that part. And at the same time, that direct subsidy to study that they offer us Europeans, which is complete and makes it €0 a year to study there. That really makes many students choose it. Something that makes them less demanded or not as popular as Denmark is that it's true that these are countries that don't have that great variety of study options in English or a great variety of international universities that offer studies in English. So the ones they have, which are very good, receive a lot of competition. And so they require perhaps profiles of people with better grades or to go through more complicated selection processes, but it can be achieved. At Educoe, we help dozens of students every year to access these countries. Those who go have an incredible educational experience, one of the best. So they are countries to highlight. And for example, Sweden, the country of innovation, those students who want to study natural sciences, it has some of the best universities in the world and a professional career, a career in the world of research, academic, one of the best you can find. And Finland also has in many other areas incredible job opportunities. And the last one we want to highlight in this group of 8 top countries, it is Germany. Germany is also increasing in recent years, the number of degrees in English. To highlight 2 important points, because if not, we could spend hours talking here. We can say that it is a country that has a very important labor market. It is the main European economy and the 5th largest economy in the world, if I'm not mistaken. And really, studying there opens a door to an incredible job market. And in addition to the public universities in the country, which offer more and more degrees in English, which cost only €600 a year. For European students, we have a very big opportunity here. There are many private universities that are very recognized that don't have such a high cost as other private universities in all countries. For example, about €8,000 a year, and they offer you much more variety of studies. So it is a country that many students choose, very relevant as a destination. Any doubts you may have, information we may have left out, or something that you are interested in, you can ask us at the end. I think we have done a review of the 8 most interesting countries, and I am going to give the spotlight back to you, Jose, so that he continues commenting us about another very important thing after we have seen which countries and having decided what to study and where to study. Another very important thing in the process, which is where to live, the accommodation.
Thank you very much, Pablo. Excellent, and many thanks to Nuria and Leire. The truth is that this information is very valuable. Well, I can go quickly through this phase, but the accommodation part is no less important. Here is what happens. It is a little bit the expectation that one has. We often have very high expectations in life. And then we are hit with reality, right? Accommodation, well, for example, a student, a family thinks that they are going to get, when they go to a university abroad, they think that they are going to have a wide offer and, well, very close to the university with a complete service, that the university will organize my accommodation, that I will have, well, full board, they will cook for me and so on, which sounds very good in the mind. But then comes a moment and you are faced with the reality, right? And the reality of what we've been seeing is that there are a lot of scams because a lot of people take advantage of the situation and the desperation in those epic battles between students for accommodation that you get into Facebook groups, Instagram groups of, well, you're already looking for accommodation anyway. And the reality is a shortage of accommodation, not just in the Netherlands or in certain parts of Denmark, but in many countries, right? I think that every time, because of the situation we have, It is more and more difficult to get good housing, not only because of that, because they ask for higher requirements, but also because you have to meet deadlines, even bureaucracy. One of our colleagues recently told us that a friend of hers had stayed in. She had gone to Erasmus in the Netherlands, I think, right? And she had stayed in a campsite. She is still in a campsite. We'll see if she considers going back to Denmark or not. The accommodation, well, in the end, there's a risk, right? And a key example, for example, this is Jorge. This is a student who leaves things to the last minute. And those are some of the risks that can occur, right? Is to be left without a place. As we had talked about scams, missing the deadline or mistakes in the documentation. But the consequence of all this is that you are left without accommodation. And this is a shame because, of course, then you have outcomes that can be a bit frustrating. That is, it means sleeping on the street. And you will say, hey, maybe that's a bit exaggerated. Well, the truth is that about a month and a half ago, I was at a workshop in the Netherlands, the largest workshop of higher education of universities from all over Europe. And in one of the seminars given by people from the government of the Ministry of Education, they told us that this year there were people who had been left sleeping on the streets, students. They could not tolerate it, and it is because of the situation that has come to happen. There are other people who, after spending some time in in hostels, the situation becomes unsustainable and they decide to return to Spain. And this also has a consequence, and I'll move myself aside here so that it can be seen a little better, which is to lose the first study option. That is to say, it has cost a lot to decide what to study, where to study, to fulfill the requirements. To be able to do it, I lose that option, but I want to go to my second option of study that maybe I was admitted in the third, but I already rejected it because I decided to go to the first one. And in the end, well, either I stay with an option that I don't want or I can lose a year. But, well, what do we do? Well, it is not to give an accommodation, but to make an accommodation plan. I want to emphasize this a little bit. Who should explain it is our colleagues, Sonsoles and Christina, who are in charge of this department and are the creators of agreements, of development of processes to be able to make this type of plans. A housing plan could be this perfectly. Here we have a girl, this is Anna, who decides to go to pursue a degree and chooses 3 universities. Those 3 universities happen to be in 3 different cities, in this case in different countries. And then to apply to the accommodations, we see that in one of the accommodations, in one of the cities we find 5 accommodations, in another one 4 accommodations, in another one 3 accommodations. What does this mean? What we from Educaway do is to make alliances, agreements with different lodging options per city. We can have 15, 16, even 20 options per city. However, not all students have the same needs. So depending on the location, type of accommodation, price, etc., a series of options are chosen. Let's say here it would be 4 times 3, more or less. 12, we have 12 types of accommodations. What do? Well, we do a little bit of what we call accommodation engineering, because in the end we have to coordinate, keep those 12 accommodations alive, following up on application processes, reservations, etc., for all those study options and housing options. Things come up along the way, that is to say that maybe the student in his first option is going to be admitted, but he is not sure, but the admission is very late. So we have to keep the accommodations alive, but at the same time, those deposits that we pay, we lose them, or there are unforeseen events, for example, that a documentation has not been delivered well or on time, or there are other types of accommodations that are based on a lottery. In others, there is a waiting list, and that waiting list, well, it depends on several variables. or others open an accommodation at a certain time, and those who are the first to opt for this accommodation have a better chance of getting it. We are talking about accommodation that can be student hotels, public residences, private residences, residences managed by the universities themselves, rooms or studios, shared rooms, entire apartments, entire buildings of landlords, owners, that we often block in advance to have them apartments through platforms. And then in the end, combining all these housing options with your first, your second, your third study option, which may be that your third option becomes the second and the second becomes the first, or that you are not admitted to one of these. Well, that's where what the accommodation plan is. I know that sometimes it is a little difficult to explain it or maybe to understand it. I hope it has been more or less understood, but you cannot imagine the complexity of all this and how we get involved in this process, especially Sonsoles and Christina, I insist, so that these big problems do not happen, that you get ripped off, that you take an accommodation too far away, or that you pay a price that you shouldn't have, or that you have to abandon your degree after all because you do not have accommodation. Let me introduce you to the team. It's not just Pablo and me, but we are directly 11 people in the team. Here we are, all of us. There are more women than men. And a team, to be honest, that is fantastic and unbeatable. Okay? Heterogeneous, international, multilingual, and all able to empathize with the students because we have all lived abroad. We are of different nationalities. And it's a pleasure, to be honest, to work with the team. And what do? Well, basically everything. We take care of everything. As we have said from EducoWay, we do vocational orientation. That is, if you are sure about your degree, we find out which are the best options in which universities and which countries according to your needs and profile. If not, we help you choose what kind of career or even what kind of professional opportunities you would like to have or would fit you better and then match you with those programs. We then would go to the document management and applications department. My colleagues, both Andrea and Vanessa, are really great in this area. We are very proud of them because look, this year, for example, we have had several students admitted to universities as prestigious as Oxford. For example, Lund University, Pablo, the Nobel Prize winner, was a physics professor in Lund. In Sweden, we have enrolled a student there. At the Sorbonne, number 3 in mathematics. I don't know if it's worldwide. Correct me if I'm wrong. Worldwide. And well, also at universities that don't have to be so much about ranking, but they are very good universities given the employability and they fit very well with the students. So they are the ones in charge of carrying this orientation and management process. And the housing management that we have mentioned now, which, well, I think I have just explained, and not to repeat myself, I hope it is clear to you. The process is very simple. There are 5 steps. In step 1, we present you the best university degrees according to your profile. We advise you for the right choice of degree, always based on your needs. We take care of all the bureaucratic process and we design an accommodation plan according to your needs, interests, and reality as well. We will not set an expectation that does not exist. To review a little bit everything, it would be the following. There is a problem, 1 out of 3 students in Spain. And this is the reality. You can look it up on Google right now, open it up on your phone and you look it up. And you are going to see that 1 out of 3 students do not finish the career they have started. And this is a very high percentage and a very high level of dissatisfaction. So there are opportunities. One can be NHL Stenden, but we have more than 30,000 university options, 18 countries, and we are going to guide you throughout every step. The time is now. Pablo has emphasized it, but I want to emphasize it even more. In the Netherlands, the process is open. We have students who have already applied, who have been conditionally admitted, and we are in the process of housing. We are talking about starting university at the end of August 2024, which is when it starts. I want to make it very clear, almost all the processes are already open, and if they are not open, as in the case of Denmark, which is on February 1st, we need a couple of months to go through our process. Sometimes it can be done in a month, but we want to do it well and to be able to give you the power to choose the best degree based on our advice. We take care of everything, as we have said, and we invite you to ask for a personalized consultancy because it does not have any cost. Besides, we have always started from that basis to give a first basic information, and not so basic, but personalized, as we have just done on this webinar too. And that would be a little bit the whole process. Having said that, we finish with a phrase: the person who goes the furthest is usually the one who is willing to do and dare, that is to take risks, to get out of the comfort zone, and in the end what one regrets most in life, from what I have seen and read, is what one has not done and wanted to do, and even more so when one has the possibility. Here we are, it is the time for questions. So to the participants, I see that Angela is already writing her doubts and questions. Perfect, start writing everything. I will open the chat and then I will read the questions one by one. And depending on whether it is addressed to someone, I will send them the question, or the person I consider most relevant to the answer, we will answer it. Let's see. Let's put it over here. Are you ready? Let's see. Just a moment, I will place it in the bottom corner. Okay. Excuse me for a second, so I will go faster, putting it all together. Okay. Let's see. What's the weather like today in Madrid? Good afternoon. You can't hear them. Let's see. The first one. Hello. Do these degrees validate in Spain? A question that I think all of us already know, because Nuria and Leire have been informed before going to the university, right? But maybe, Pablo, it is a question that you are always asked. Well, not always, but many times.
Yes, if they do not do it, they have informed themselves first and have seen that luckily throughout Europe, we already work in a unified way. After the Bologna process, they are official degrees, the European credit transfer system, with which there is no need to do anything. When returning to Spain, they are official degrees that are going to be accepted automatically.
In your case,
would you like to stop sharing the screen so they can see all of us? Yes, I think so. When also you, so that when we answer questions, they can see us.
It was part of the presentation. I forgot, sorry, here. Angeles is asking, what level of English do you have to have in the second year of the Spanish baccalaureate for the applications? I see, it depends. Leire and Nuria, I am going to pass the question to Pablo because of course it is relative, isn't it? It depends on which university. Can you explain it?
Of course, yes, in general, in Europe, you need a level between B2 and C1. The B2 opens a lot of doors. You can access most of the universities with a medium-high B2, and there are some universities that are a little more demanding and may ask for the C1. But the reality is that even in Europe, there are universities that are even more flexible, others less so, and you can get in even with a high school level of English. But what we have to keep in mind is to know that an official exam with a B or C level is the minimum that we have to have as a goal, and some universities can be a little more demanding and ask for the C1.
For example, later, what level did you need?
For my university, I think, well, I don't think so. I do know. B2 is the minimum they ask for, and in case you don't have it, you can do an English course at the university. And if you pass it, you get admitted. It's quite special.
Yes, yes, yes. In your case, Nuria?
I took the TOEFL test, which is also one of the tests that are accepted. And I also applied to Sweden, and they asked me for the same. And as you said, there is a lot of range because in Sweden, they asked me for one score, and in Denmark, another, and it was the same test. It depends on what you want to study and the country.
Maybe it was a little higher score, right? Because yours is a research university and is more focused on the C1, isn't it? Yes, yes, yes. I was asked for the B2 as well. Candela asks, how does the cutoff score work? Because we are very familiar with the cutoff mark because it is the system that exists in Spain. At the end, it is a cutoff mark, and if you score 1/10 less, it doesn't matter how good you are, the projects you have done, the experience you have, other types of intelligence you have developed. In Spain, it is purely a cutoff mark for the public university. Another question, what grade is needed? How does it work? I don't know. Pablo, can you tell us? And then we can ask Leire and Nuria.
Yes, to give a general overview, right? Because in Europe in general, there is not a cutoff mark that you have to get. In fact, the vast majority of universities in Europe, in the countries that we have mentioned, if you meet some basic requirements that are an accepted educational system, such as the Spanish or British or IB, French, German, even from South America, a system that they accept, you already meet the requirements, and with that you would enter. Sometimes they will evaluate in an interview to get to know you, but it doesn't really work with a cutoff score, and it is easier than we might think when applying to these countries. There may be more competitive options in which you compete against more people, and then you need a better grade, but in general, you don't need a cutoff mark. If you pass the baccalaureate, even in some countries, they do not ask for the EVAU, but if you pass the baccalaureate and EVAU, and with the relevant subjects for what you want to study and the level of English, you can enter a lot of very good and top universities in many countries.
How was it in your case, Leire and Nuria?
They didn't ask me for the EBAU, and neither did I. I think the minimum grade for the baccalaureate needed to be a 7. But as you said, we didn't need a cutoff mark. There is no cutoff mark per degree like in Spain. And they didn't consider the EBAU. They weren't interested in it. They did ask me for a, sorry. They asked me for a letter of motivation, which I think is quite rare in Spain. What you said is more personal, more about why you want to be here and really show it.
Yes, the same for me. And they also asked me for my resume to see what other skills you had and to see more or less your work career. But I don't know. And another thing I wanted to say related to this, apart from the motivational letter, was that I went to the United States, and in fact, I hired your services to not take the EBAU because it was very complicated for me to take the EBAU while I was abroad, because neither in Denmark nor in Sweden they asked me to take the EBAU.
That's great. We already knew that, but it was so that we could tell the public, the attendees, and which English certificates are valid. Well, all three, right? Mainly.
Generally, any university will always accept Cambridge, IELTS, or the American one, the TOEFL. Those are the three that they all accept. There are others that you have mentioned that I have seen in the chat, the Pearson, Trinity, and other types of certificates, or for example, the official academies here in Spain. They do not usually accept them. You should always go to these three to have guaranteed access.
That's great. Another question. This one is for you. It's from Michelle, if I said it right. Is there a medical degree at the universities you usually work with?
Perfect. Yes, there is. You have seen that there are 18 countries in Europe, and although we have not talked about all of them because we have to talk about a few, there is medicine in many of them. They are countries like Hungary, Czech Republic, Slovakia, or the most interesting ones, the ones we have helped students to go to, Lithuania or Latvia. There are medical programs there focused on international students, with a lot of students from Spain, Sweden, Germany, because the problems in Spain unfortunately also occur in other countries in Europe. And not to get too long, because it is a bit complicated, I would direct you especially to our website. There is a lot of information, or contact us and we will tell you more in detail, because it is a matter
We forget one thing, which is we haven't talked about it for one simple reason. We will have a webinar about degrees in medicine. I don't remember the date, but that is on the EducaWay website. On the homepage, there are different specific webinars. So, Michele, I invite you to register to that specific one on medicine. Also, they're fantastic universities. I had the opportunity a few months ago to attend a workshop with my colleague Alvaro. We saw the 20 students we have doing medicine at the University of Lithuania. Incredible modern facilities, 24-hour recordings, case studies. I don't know whether to say this, but I am going to say it. The first day of anatomy class, which is the second day of class, you get a cadaver. And on the third day, you have practice. And the fourth, maybe somebody gets sick and we get to dinner time. But I mean, of course, then, you know, if you want to be a doctor or not. I mean, I talk to people in medicine in Spain and they tell me, I'm not going to name the university because I don't think it's right. But in the 5th year, we see one, and be careful, one for everyone. We can't touch it. We were in the hospital the first semester. They are with real patients. And I said, wow, sure. At first, Lithuania or other countries can be a little shocking, but when you are there, you say, hey, they are way ahead of us. Is it necessary to have the B2 or can you get it in June? All right. There are many universities that we show that you are on it, right? For me to explain it this way, Pablo would explain it better. But submit all the documentation that we have in the student portal, because each student has his own portal in which he uploads the documents. He sees his enrollment options. He sees his housing options, study options. He can make the payments and so on. Well, he's in that status in everything, or he may even have a conditional admission at the expense of having the final English certificate. A lot of them, really, they leave it for those times, for that month. Is there some kind of English placement and university entrance exam to take? If so, how far in advance? Well, I think we have already answered that. When does the enrollment process end in Denmark? We talk about when it starts, not when it ends, because there is a day and a time that always ends, right, Pablo? We have had to work even on a weekend. The date is
March 15 at 12 noon and it's over, but come on, try to go on the website that day, try to do something. Impossible?
everything collapses.
You can't count on that day. We have an internal rule that we have to forget about that date and do it much earlier because it is really impossible many times.
In fact, I think that it must be said, we have a little lie, and we never say that it is the 15th. It is days before, because we know that it collapses and you have to leave a few days of margin to, hey, if there are any incidents, which there are, to be able to solve them. In the end, there are thousands of documents. This year we have managed 3 times 4, around 1,200 applications that we have done this year at EducaWay. So in the end, 1,200 applications, calculate 10 documents per each one. It is true that a student applies to several universities, but well, thousands of documents, a lot. That's great. Hello, are the applied science universities like the FP here? Are the research universities more prestigious? I am referring at the local level within the Netherlands itself. That is a very good question, Maria del Mar. Pablo, can you take this one?
Yes, I can answer part of it and Leire can answer some as well.
I can talk about the official part. They are fully official degrees, equivalent to Spanish degrees, because they are university degrees. But Leire can tell us about her experience as well.
It is true that in the Netherlands they are categorized, that is, it is a university degree, but it is categorized as level 1 and level 2. So it is categorized as level Y, but when you graduate with the European credits, as Pablo said, it is a university degree. We don't notice the difference in Spain. Yes, it doesn't matter. In fact, I mean, sorry. No, in fact, just simply what I wanted to emphasize more, that you are basically learning how to literally work. So for employability, because in this, for example, in my career, it's very much, it doesn't matter that you study how to use a camera or what you need to understand. If you don't know how to do it, then a company is going to be more interested in you knowing how to do it, not just your credits in that sense.
What I meant to say, Leire, is that even the same degree can be found in both types of universities. For example, there are business degrees in research universities. Of course, it is for a more academic profile, which has other needs, which then may want to continue with an official master's degree and then go on to a doctorate. And the applied sciences with a methodology, as you said, more practical, more focused on the day-to-day, on the reality of the companies. That does not mean that the other is not practical, but that is the difference. And Marta Sosa asks us about whether the degrees are validated in Spain if you study abroad. The term abroad is relative, and it depends on the type of university. If it is in the European Union, public universities. Well, Pablo, answer us.
Well, no problem. No need to do any process. They are automatically recognized.
The problem would be if it is outside the European Union, there is a process of homologation that takes months, if not even years. And then some private universities that are not affiliated to a public university, this may be the case. Okay, you don't need a second language that is not your mother tongue. Leire, Nuria, do you have to speak another language?
English, and that's it.
Do you speak a little bit of Danish?
Well, a little.
Jeg taler og lik dans.
Ja, jeg taler dansk og spansk.
Bobodu.
Yeah. The university offers you many free courses you have to pay, but if you pass the exam, you get your money back. After all, they want people to stay in Denmark to learn Danish. That's why they also give you the SU grant. It's a method of catching people and making them stay here because they need population and they need young people. So yes, you can also learn Danish very easily.
That's great. I learned 20 sentences.
Yes, I mean, it is difficult, but in the end, if you work and everything.
Hoe kom du fra?
Ja, fra.
Ja, fra
Ja, jeg er fra Barcelona.
Barcelona. Leire Dutch, you've got me.
No, I think the Netherlands is one of the, well, if not the most, I think it is one of the countries in Europe and in the world that has the largest English-speaking population. I mean, everybody speaks English, which English is not the first language. And the truth is that I have communicated in English perfectly. I know how to count to 10. I know how to say hello, thank you, and little more. And if you want to learn, you can learn at the university. It is not free, as in Denmark. But really, there's a huge international community, so it is not a priority. They are trying to implement it a little bit more. But the Netherlands receives a lot of people from abroad, and the people there are very fluent in the language. It's very impressive.
It's great. Victoria, you talked to us about the International Baccalaureate. Is it necessary to have an English certificate for this type of baccalaureate? Pablo.
Yes, as a general rule, we will say yes, okay? It has to be the general rule, but there are many universities that consider it as equivalent already. As long as you have had English and you have had it from a certain level, I think it is English B that they ask for. But well, as a general rule, the goal is always to have it official. But then from university to university, we find many that do accept it.
Very good. Michelle asks us if we are working with Greece. Well, we have not yet enrolled anyone in Greece. No one has asked us to go to Greece. But knowing that we were asked for the medical field, we can explore the option. There's always a starting point, right? In Canada, we didn't work with it, and now we have a process already in place. And in the end, it is always successful, just like in France at the Sorbonne or the number 3 mathematics in the world. So even if it costs us twice as much work or 3 times as much, if we see the feasibility, we study it, and it is a challenge, we could do it by ourselves. Aurora, what happens if you have not been accredited in any level of English, but you have studied for a year in the United States? We have a lot of students like that, don't we? First year students mainly, right? Or fourth or second year too. What would you tell them?
Yes, it happens a little bit like with the IB. There are universities that may consider that it is enough to have done that last year in English, but the general rule is no. The general rule is that you need an official certificate.
Yes, it is necessary, yes.
And Paula goes along the same lines, right? She says, hello, is it necessary to have done the International Baccalaureate, or can you do the Spanish Baccalaureate and the EVU?
Or just the baccalaureate directly?
Baccalaureate?
Yes.
The Spanish Baccalaureate meets requirements in all countries.
Pablo, every year we enroll students with the different types of Spanish Baccalaureate, with and without eval, with International Baccalaureate, with the British, with the American, and with grafts, right? With homologations, right? 1 year in Canada and 1 year in Spain, 1 year in the United States, 1 year in Spain, 1 year in the United States, 1 year in Canada. And strange things that we also commented at the beginning, that even from India, that is Spanish students, we did not know why. Well, there were problems with homologations. But well, in one way or another, what we are always looking for, this engineering that we do when it comes to applications and enrollment, always respecting all the processes, is to enter in one way or another those students who have two options, right? Because there are many international baccalaureate students who are also taking Spanish subjects, and we can go for the two branches, and we decide which one. In fact, this week we had a case like that for one it didn't fit, but for the other it did. We have another question from Juan. Hi, does the IBHL level, which is high level, does it help to get directly into universities in Belgium, Sweden, Germany for the biotech and medical degree? We would have to look at it carefully. High level in what?
I would say that if, for example, for the most relevant subjects for your degree, it is good to have high level. If you want a science, then physics, mathematics. For engineering, mathematics is mandatory. You do have to have the most relevant subjects as high level. The same as with the British Baccalaureate as A level. The most important subject will be the one that is related to your degree.
Michelle asks us if any country has requirements for their local language. None. Well, for the options that we offer, which is international education, you always have the option to go for a degree in Danish, in Dutch, but that's not the case.
Exactly. Everything we have talked about today with English, you're in.
Is it even necessary for architecture? Well, architecture is one of the degrees that you have to take a good look at, isn't it, Pablo? Because of the issue of homologation for the Colegio de Arquitectos here in Spain and so on. It is a subject that you have to look at very carefully.
Exactly. Architecture has very good options. In the United Kingdom, for example, in Ireland, countries that have a great variety of studies. Then you have to see the universities, which are those that the Colegio de Arquitectos contemplate, but you can do it without problem. And in the rest of Europe, there are degrees related to architecture, but towards the part of the construction management or more practical architecture, that has a lot job opportunities, but is not exactly the same.
Christina asks a question. I do not know if I understand it. It says, the ones that are in the second year of baccalaureate, we are currently managing students who are in their first and second year, which is the whole orientation, the process, document management, and accommodation. In the first year, we do an orientation. We also help with choosing school subjects, if there should be any changes and so on. And in the second year, we do all the documentation, accommodation, etc., the application and enrollment. Ava, good afternoon. I started listening to the webinar late. I don't know if you have commented on the entry requirements for European universities. High school grades, do you have to take any exams to get into them? I think we have already discussed this, and even if you have connected later, as it has been asked before, I think it has been answered. Maria Jose, what about in UK? Would the qualification also be convalidated here in Spain? Good question, because of Brexit.
Yes, but fortunately, no country has broken relations at the education level, the agreements that were already in place, and it is not foreseen. We have been talking about it at workshops, and it is a hot topic whenever it is discussed, but it is still accepted without problems.
This person says that is that you can work in Spain after studying in Europe? I wouldn't say that you can work, but it is going to be more likely that you find a job faster and better. It is something that is valued. There are things you learn, no matter how much they explain to you what it is to live abroad, what it is to work with different cultures, nationalities. You can read a lot of books, but you have to do it. It's like an experience. You have to live it. I can tell you what it's like to eat a new fruit, but until you try it, you won't know. Nuria and Leire, you will have to do projects with students from all over the world in mixed groups.
They always try to put you with people from other countries. We are 5 Spaniards in class and they never put us together.
This is normal. I'm getting flashbacks from a long time ago when I was in class. We were 13 nationalities too, and it was very interesting. Is the B2 the one you get at the end of high school? No, not exactly. Pablo.
No, the B2, we are talking about official exams such as Cambridge or IELTS, which are taken separately.
Yolanda is also asking a good question. So even though the degree does not exist in Spain, it is equally recognized?
Yes, it is not really homologated, but let's say that it is accepted. You are a university graduate, no one can say no, or in terms of work, you will always be recognized as having a university degree. In the rare case that there is a type of profession that requires one of these degrees, such as architecture, which we have discussed, with law, which I have seen another question that mentioned it, there are a few professions in Spain that are regularized by institutions or associations. Those have to be, let's say, accepted by the association or would have to be homologated, but they are very few. The great majority of degrees and occupations in Europe, even if they do not exist here in Spain, you will be able to work as a university graduate.
Great. We are asked, is Pearson certification any good? It doesn't fulfill the requirement, right? You tell us, Pablo.
It depends. It depends. Pearson, I don't think so. I think Pearson has different exams, but they are not the Cambridge or IELTS, which are the ones that almost all universities accept.
Maybe in universities in other countries, the United States, some in the United Kingdom, but we do not know for sure. In general, no. We always recommend the IELTS. Then Yolanda also tells us, what about the C1 from the EOI? Could it be useful because it is an official language school? Congratulations, because it is a C1, and now it will be easier to take an IELTS exam and get the grade they ask for, a 6.5 or a 7, depending on the university. One, how much can it cost in Sweden to do biotechnology? In Sweden, Germany, Belgium, for a non-European person, of course. We always talk about the European students. We have left the non-European students. So how much is the degree? In Sweden?
Generally, the international fee for non-European students is between 9,000 and 10,000 euros.
Germany would be around there too. And Belgium right now, I'm not sure.
Very similar.
Around there too, right? It's like 8 or 9. Yes, it would be between 8 and 10, more or less. Guillermo Sanchez, does the dual baccalaureate plus the B2 serve as proof of my level of English? The B2 depends, doesn't it? Well, we don't know if it's a certified B2. Or do you understand it, Pablo? The dual baccalaureate plus the B2, of course.
The dual baccalaureate may refer to some kind of study that is done in Spanish and English, or that is done with the American and Spanish system, which I have sometimes seen. But well, as a general rule, always have the official B2.
I think it is the normal baccalaureate. And then they implement the dual, which is like an American one, right? Like some extra classes that you can take online. I don't know if Andrea and Vanessa would answer this like this in a second. But well, if you're in B2, same thing, it wouldn't be much. If you need an IELTS, a 6.0. Humor, is there a criminology degree in any of these countries? UK comes to mind. Yes, there are a lot of options, a lot of criminology options, and criminology with a lot of things too. Criminology, I don't remember with what, but come on, we've seen it on many occasions. The question is, what do I want to be a criminologist for? Because many times maybe you're already thinking, I want to be an inspector, right? They usually say for police inspector. And that's where, well, we can orient yourself in some way or another. But I would invite you to ask for a consultancy and we will see it in a personalized way. Jose Angel, if you want to go to university after a 2-year higher degree in the same branch, computer science, how many years of study do you have to do? Very good. Here is our line of FP to degree that we haven't talked about it because we have another webinar that is called Top Up Bachelors, right? That this is something very specific. Well, I'm going to explain this. That is that certain cycles of higher degree, we do a complete validation and the student can do the last year and a half, even the last year of university degree. Only those of general fields such as DAM, which I imagine will be your case, which is development of multi-platform applications, or DAU, development of web applications, or some of the branch of commerce and marketing. There are others. So Jose Angel FP to degree is the line that we have on the web, and that is what you are asking us about because we have options in several countries. I'm going to go faster because we still have 22 things on the chat. What happens if after a year abroad you regret studying abroad and you want to study in Spain? Do you need to have passed the EVAU to enroll at a Spanish university? Do you enroll directly because you come from another university? These are all very good questions. Pablo, briefly.
Yes, well, it is not easy, but what you are talking about is transferring your transcript, isn't it, during your career? It is something that is not easy to get, and it costs a lot between different countries. Normally, it is best to start and finish in the same place, although you are always free to ask for it and try, but experience tells us that it is complicated.
Is the homologation of a law degree necessary to practice in Spain? Here, what we say, if you really want to do law and practice in Spain, it is better to do your law degree in Spain. If you want an international aspect, in international law, you have two options. If you have it very clear, we have enrolled students in international law, it is something else. Don't think about homologating it. And if you want to do a little bit of everything, do law in Spain and then do a master's degree in international law, then you have to look beyond that. That is, what do I want to do next? And depending on that, we will advise you one thing or another. Many times we advise you not to do the process with us, to stay in Spain because we believe it will be the best for you. Guillermo Sanchez, what are the requirements to study abroad?
Jose, I just noticed that you are not among the featured speakers. Maybe. The image has changed and I am not seeing you. You can double check there so that everyone can see you on the main screen.
Add to highlights. I'm back. What are the requirements for studying abroad? Denmark, for example. Well, it depends. It depends on the type of degree. It depends, above all, we have talked about the level of English between a B2 and a C1. And then depending, for some there is a cutoff mark, for some there are interviews, motivation letters. In some you have to submit a portfolio for design degrees. In some you have to do some assignments, like for engineering. So depending on the degree. Germán Pozuela, Jose and Educo Way team, thank you very much for giving us the opportunity to learn more about access to universities. Thank you very much to you. I have to leave you, but we will contact you later. Thank you all. That's great. Marta Sosa, how much does this counseling cost? Well, I'll explain it quickly. We have a cost, which is our fee for the global service. We do not do the orientation service without managing the documents or managing documents, without then making an accommodation plan with those 15 or 16 options and coordinate everything. So we have a fee of 2,799 euros, which is paid in a first payment of 900 euros. The orientation is done, the process is done, and when the student has already been admitted to one of the options that have been chosen, we apply to 3 options. There can be more. Then the second step is paid. The second payment, probability of success this year has been 98.1. It has not been 100%. One year we had 100%. But, well, there are always students who only want to apply to a specific university and a very high profile, and it is a risk. If you know it and you accept it, well, you can take that risk. In Canada, will there be a diversity of university degrees, and will there be some type of scholarship? A lot of diversity. Yes, there is a very, very big offer. It is not exactly economic, and there will be some type of scholarship for a specific degree. Yes, but it is like an extra. You cannot count on it. It is not these scholarships we are talking about. The costs are much higher. Nora, what is it like to live in the south of Denmark in the small town? I'm thinking of going there too. How is it in Sonderborg, Nuria? I have been there many times.
For me, it is very cool because at the end you are having like a closer contact with the Danish culture, and you become more familiar with the language. You become more familiar with what I already said, the culture, than if you were in Copenhagen. In the end, I like it very much. It's like a very cozy place. We are also a lot of Spanish community. We make a lot of family, and in general, all the students, we make a lot of groups and we help each other. In the end, it is like living with your family, but we are all students and everything is full of student residences. There are no student apartments. They are all residences, and it is very cool.
The community, great. Marta, you ask us if there is medicine in Germany. In Germany, well, we know of an option that we do not manage because they have a monopoly with another company. The fees are about 28,000 euros or 25,000 euros a year. It is not exactly economical, and we do not manage it. We do manage it in 6 countries in Europe. Francisca, what is the process to request a personalized consultancy? Well, it is very simple. You just have to access the Educaway website, type Educaway, and 1,000 things will appear. 1,000 news items, 1,000 articles. We appear in the press. We appear in 1,000 places because we are mentioned. And in any of the forms at the end, you leave your contact information and you can say, I listened to the webinar, or I have a specific question, or whatever you want in the comments, and one of the counselors will contact you. If it is a little bit urgent, I would appreciate you calling, or you can also contact us by WhatsApp, because due to the webinar and due to some fairs, well, right now, I don't know, Pablo, 350 requests have been received. We have a team of 11 people, but well, we are also human, and each person needs time, and sometimes it takes a few days, or if everything comes all at once, well, a little more. But that would be the way to do it. Look, Lucia tells us that she can request it there. Perfect. Thank you very much, Lucia, for sending the link on the chat. Adriana, can you talk, Nuria, about what do you think about housing at your university? Do you like it? You just talked about it.
Yes, besides this year, they have added more spots at the university, and the number of accommodations for everyone has grown quite a bit. From 1 month to the next, they have made 2 more residences to accommodate all these new students. The system is very well set up. Also, everything goes by lists. Applying is very easy. You have to know how, and Educaway helps you with all those steps. I'm very happy with the system here. It's very easy. And we also have scholarships for housing, for being students.
We always leave surprises. The expectation here and then, hey, you find a scholarship, you have to go through a process, but very good. Aurora tells us, can you give us an approximation of how much it costs to live on average per month in these countries? I mean, more or less, I imagine that in each country there is a price, but the question is whether it is more expensive than in Spain and so on. Let them tell us. We know it too. We have the average. Aurora said it perfectly, but of course it depends. But to give you figures, more or less. How much a month? How much a month could you pay? It's clear that it depends on tastes and so on. If you are always traveling, leisure, and so on. If it's just another accommodation, of course, but tell us a little bit, an average.
Denmark itself is much more expensive than Spain, although now with inflation, basic services such as groceries and so on have not gone up in price at all. In fact, oil is expensive. But now my parents no longer send me food or anything like that, because in Spain it is much more expensive than in Denmark. And at the end of the day, these basic services are the same or lower because they have put new laws and so on to help society. So I don't know, I would say about 400 or 500.
But that's in addition to housing, right? You had a residence. You told us it was a little bit more premium. That cost you 450. Also, I mean, in other places, you can pay in the Netherlands up to 800, 900 euros for accommodation. But in the end, 850, we could say. I mean, as a starting point, right? Then it depends on leisure and everything. Leire,
We have,
a little
as
more.
I was telling you before, yes, well, as I am in Leeuwarden in the Netherlands, I was going to say, in Leeuwarden, as it is a small town, you can find cheaper accommodation. I paid 350 for a shared house, but residence is 500 minimum. And then for the supermarket and all these costs are a bit more expensive. I would say about the same in Leeuwarden. Now, if you go to Amsterdam or a little bit bigger cities, more. But well, as I said before, it is also very easy to combine studies with a job. And that is also very well paid. Everything is more expensive, but also the salaries are higher.
Well, perfect. Here's a question that we, thank you, Pablo, for answering the question. Civil service examinations, Lucia is sharing a reminder. The video of the meeting will be published so that you do not miss anything. Let's see, I cover myself and I can't see of what was said during the webinar. And you can retrieve the answers, questions, such commented. Very good. Thank you very much. Yolanda, yes, but I mean, if you can work in the public administration with a European degree, that's for you,
Yes, you
Pablo.
can. European qualifications are official. So you can work in private companies and in public administration as well. The only case, as a colleague commented above, is that if it is a position that requires a particular degree of those that exist in Spain, when you do the civil service examination, sometimes they mention it. Only in those cases you will have to do the previous step of equivalency. But fortunately, most of the degrees that you bring from Europe, from any of these universities, are official degrees that also exist in Spain and will be accepted.
Lucas tells us that, hello, good morning. I'm finishing TE this year from a higher cycle of programming, and I'm going to do my internship in Denmark. How cool. After this, I want to access a software engineering program, and I would like to know if they value the one who has done internships there when applying to the university and the possibilities of accessing. Yes. I mean, they value it a lot, Lucas. You are a brave person. You're going out of your comfort zone. Of course, it is highly valued. In many cases, it's those who want to do certain things more than those who are able to do them.
I would like to add something to the previous question, that we, for example, we can do the internship with companies in Spain related to politics, but we are doing it with companies in Croatia. If a Croatian friend does it with Croatia, after all, it is accepted and it is more than approved for that reason, because you can do internships from your own country.
That's great. Very good input, Nuria. Jose Angel tells us a recognized degree, but not homologated in Spain, as you have commented, because the same degree does not exist in Spain. Do you have to homologate it if you need it for a civil service examination? For example, a degree or master's degree that requires a university degree. We come back a little bit to the same thing, the civil service examination. In the end, what it is, yes, you, Pablo.
I think we have just discussed it, right? That on a few occasions. On some occasions, yes, because of the way the position is written.
Jose Angel, the top-up webinar, look, Lucia is answering you. It is January. If you want, we will announce it on our social media. If there were any changes, you would find out. Yes, follow us on our social media platforms and we will publish it there. And on the website, on the homepage where the events are published, because now I think we have about 4 or 5 in the future, we will post the rest. Come on, we only have 6 left. I'm looking in the part of your website about degrees and I can't find physics with mathematics. Do you also help with the process of double degrees? Well, Pablo says it's not very common, but there are some. In the Netherlands, for example, we help several students every year. for the double degree. Okay, but well, we have physics, which is physics, and you can do physics and applied physics. The first year is common, mathematics and applied mathematics. But that can combine with a 3-year degree. We have a top 100 university worldwide. You can do a 3-year degree and then do a master's degree in the specialization, and in 4 years you have it all. So, and then the web part, we can't put 30,000 translated degrees. We have about 200 or so, quite relevant. But well, it's just to give you an idea of the degrees in demand, but then the service is personalized. Rocio, where could I study building or product design? Maybe product design, maybe the Netherlands could be a good option. Look, Pablo, you answered it. Sorry, you answered it. Very good. Well, since you have answered it, and I think people are reading it, Lucia leaves here the link to ask for the consultancy. Thank you very much, Lucia. Adrian Garcia, you said something about criminology. I did not see that one. That is what I am telling you, Adriana. If we start translating all the degrees and then upload them to our website, we would not do anything else. So don't worry, we look for the best options. We have search models, formats, our own tool that we have not wanted to talk about, which is our own technology. It is called the tool, the counselors app, which helps for all these processes. And we take care of everything. Aurora, thanks.
My degree was not on the website. You looked up my degree for me, in fact, according to what I told you at orientation.
It is an example. Thank you very much. Yes, I think that our website, at the end of the day, of the ones we enrolled, Cambridge is not there, Oxford is not there, Sorbonne is not there, Lund is not there, a lot of top universities are not there. But why? Well, why are we going to put data there if in the end what we have to do is to guide and make the correct processes? And Aurora is already thanking us, girls. And Leire, I was just going to ask you about working there while you study to help support yourself. Well, this is the last question. Work and study. Who of the two of you works and studies?
Me,
Leire?
both of us.
Come on, whatever you want. One and then the
Well,
other.
I'll start. In the Netherlands, as I mentioned at the beginning, there are many 0-hour contracts. In other words, it is very integrated in the culture that students also work. It is more independent in that sense, I think. And basically, there are a lot of positions. As international students, yes, since Leeuwarden is very small, you can't get into all the positions. But waiters, well, everything in the hospitality industry, delivery by bike or whatever, all of that we can access, and it is quite well paid. I, for example, was working as a delivery person for a while on an electric bike. Then it was too cold and I decided I didn't want to do it anymore. And I worked as a waitress for a while. And basically, well, every week I had to send in my hours, the hours I wanted to work, depending on how busy I was with the university, then more or less. Or if I went back to Spain for vacation, I didn't work. And they keep the contract because it is 0 hours. And for salary, well, for example, I got, as a delivery person, I think it was about 13 euros too. When you get older, at 18, you get X amount, 19, 20, 21. And from 21, you get more. And as a waitress, I was paid 12.50, I think it was. So pretty much the same.
Per
Specific,
hour,
and that's
I
quite...
understand what you mean, but maybe the people...
Oh, sorry.
Well, I clarify in case there is someone who has doubts. 13 euros per hour.
Yes, thank
Good,
you.
thank you. Very well.
Yes, and it was also paid on a weekly basis. That also, I don't know, it seemed to me I was better off as a student. And that's pretty easy to combine. I mean, almost everybody, most people, I would say, have jobs.
That's great. Nuria?
The same thing happens here, exactly the same. We don't get paid weekly. It's like a month, like in Spain. And I was also working in an Indian restaurant before for 8 months, and it was the same. The difference for me is that they know that we are here mostly because of the grant. And this grant, which we haven't talked about much either, which is basically that if you work about 40, 42 hours a month, you can get about 800 euros more. That's like 5,000 kroner or so. No, 6,300 and something, sorry. Where at the end of the day, it's 10, 12 hours a week. that you can do this with 2 days of work if you work a full day, those 2 days, and that's it. And if not, then more days of work. You combine it however you want. But if at the end of the month you do 42 hours, you're already on the grant. So as long as you do those hours, everything else doesn't matter. Because in the end, together with the grant and your salary, because they take half of it away for taxes and so on, you're getting about 1,200 euros a month. So right now, I'm getting 120 Danish kroner an hour, which is about 16 euros.
1,200 in the semester. So I think you're in the middle, you said. Year and a half, so you're already at the end of the second year. 1,200 euros, independent, doing a university degree that costs maybe 14 or 15,000 euros for non-European students. You do it for free. Well, hey, that's very good. Just imagine, right? After 3 years, you finish your degree, self-sufficient. That's why we say, right? That 1 year out is worth 3. It's something that we invented in Educaway, but I think that we agree.
Besides these countries, whether it's the Netherlands or Denmark or any Scandinavian country in the north, they make everything so easy for you. The processes of all the paperwork and so on. I had the bank account, I had the residency permit, I had the same legal issues as the Danes, all in 1 month. I mean, all my papers.
Yes, me too.
Let's not talk about bureaucracy here. Each country has its own.
I think it goes very fast. Living
Well,
here, the
Exactly.
benefits you get from them, the systems, they're very improved.
Good memories. I lived there for a year and a half, and the origin of all this started there. And it's been almost 10 years. Well, thank you so much to both of you. Leire, thank you very much because you are there in Malaysia. It's almost 2 o'clock at night, 4 o'clock. My goodness, we got carried away. But we give each other a virtual hug from all of us. Let's hope to stay in touch. Nuria, the same. It has been a real pleasure. You have contributed a lot, and I'm sure you have inspired many people and solved many doubts. And the same to Pablo. Pablo, thank you very much. The truth is that the information was very accurate to the university, to NHL Stenden for collaborating, and to all the participants who attended. Really, thank you very much. And to those of you who could not attend, and there were many of you, well, we will send you all this webinar very soon with the work of our colleague, Lucia. I want to thank her 1,000 times, because this presentation that I had made with bullet points in this way, she has made us a work of art. I am very happy. I am very happy. Thank you very much to you too, Lucia, and to all the Educaway team. Good night, and let's talk. And don't forget to ask for the free consultancy.
Thanks to Leire and Nuria as well, and to you, Jose, and to everyone here as well.
Very well. A pleasure, and see you soon at the meeting. See you later.
Thank you very much. Bye.